please rise. Attention to orders. Senior Master Sergeant Richard M. Moss distinguished himself in the performance of outstanding service to the United States as Senior Enlisted Leader from 1 September 2019 to 31 August 2024. During this period, he led a team of 8 enlisted members providing comprehensive financial management support for the 194th Wing, where he managed pay operations and ensured the reconciliation of over 6,000 travel vouchers, exceeding $7 million in total, enabling training and missions for 18 organizations. Additionally, as an expert advisor on policy and directives, Sergeant Moss resolved 5 findings leading to the closure of an Air Force Audit Agency travel audit. The singularly distinctive accomplishments of Senior Master Sergeant Moss culminated a distinguishing career in the service of his country and reflect great credit upon himself, the Air National Guard, and the United States Air Force. Signed, Colonel Brian A. Bergman, Commander, 194th Wing. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Senior Master Sergeant Moss and his son will now perform a flag folding ceremony. This represents Senior Master Sergeant Moss transitioning from the military and his son assuming the duties. For more than 200 years, the American flag has been the symbol of our nation's unity, as well as a source of pride and inspiration for millions of citizens. Born on June 14, 1777, the Second Continental Congress determined that the flag of the United States be 13 stripes, alternating between 7 red and 6 white, and that the Union be 13 stars, white, and a blue field representing a new constellation. Between 1777 and 1960, the shape and design of the flag evolved into the flag presented before you today. The 13 horizontal stripes represent the original 13 colonies, while the stars represent the 50 states of the Union. The colors of the flag are symbolic as well. Red symbolizes hardiness and valor, white signifies purity and innocence, and blue represents vigilance, perseverance, and justice. Traditionally a symbol of liberty, the American flag has carried the message of freedom and inspired Americans both at home and abroad. In 1814, Francis Scott Key was so moved at seeing the stars and stripes waving after the British shelling of Baltimore's Fort McHenry that he wrote the words to the Star-Spangled Banner. In 1892, the flag inspired Francis Bellamy to write the Pledge of Allegiance, our most famous flag salute and patriotic oath. In July 1969, the American flag was flown in space when Neil Armstrong landed on the surface of the moon. Today, our flag flies on constellations of Air Force satellites that circle our globe and on the fin flash of our aircraft in harm's way in every corner of the world. Indeed, it flies in the heart of every American who serves our great nation. The sun never sets on our U.S. Air Force nor the flag we so proudly cherish. Since 1776, no generations of Americans have been spared the responsibility of defending freedom. Today's airmen remain committed to preserving the freedom that others won for us for generations to come. By displaying the flag and giving it a distinctive fold, we show respect to the flag and express our gratitude to those individuals who fought and continue to fight for freedom at home and abroad. Since the dawn of the 20th century, airmen have proudly flown the flag in every major conflict on lands and skies around the world. It is their responsibility, our responsibility, to continue to protect and preserve the rights, privileges, and freedoms that we as Americans enjoy today. The United States flag represents who we are. It stands for the freedom we all share and the pride and patriotism we feel for our country. We cherish its legacy as a beacon of hope to one and all. Long may it wave. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise.
Publish the order.
Attention to orders. Special Order AA 4409491, Senior Master Sergeant Richard Moss is relieved from assignment with the Washington Air National Guard, Camp Murray, Washington, and honorably discharged from the Washington Air National Guard, effective 31 August 2024, and is transferred to Headquarters ARPC Retired Reserve Section, effective 1 September 2024, in the grade of Senior Master Sergeant. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. At this time, Colonel Gray will now present the Presidential Certificate of Appreciation and a Certificate of Retirement to Senior Master Sergeant Moss. The certificate reads, thank you for your service in the United States Armed Forces. I am proud to have served as your Commander-in-Chief, and I am pleased to join your family and friends and colleagues in recognizing your career and accomplishments. Throughout history, the dedicated men and women of our military have protected our citizens and preserved the ideals that make our country strong. Their courage and sacrifice have inspired countless people and have helped shape America's character. On behalf of a grateful nation, I thank you for your contributions to our security and to the cause of peace and freedom. Your service, patriotism, and selfless devotion have helped advance the universal hope of liberty at home and around the world. Laura and I send our best wishes for health and happiness in the years ahead. May God bless you, and may God continue to bless America. Signed, President George W. Bush. At this time, Colonel Gray will now present the Certificate of Retirement to Senior Master Sergeant Moss. To all who shall see these presents, greeting. This is to certify that Senior Master Sergeant Richard Moss, having served faithfully and honorably, was retired from the United States Air Force on the 31st day of August 2024. Signed, the Chief of Staff, General David A. Alvin. Retiree receives a special retirement pin as a memento of their service. Cindy, please join us to pin the United States Air Force retirement pin on Senior Master Sergeant Moss's lapel to symbolize his transition from active duty to retired status. At this time, Colonel Gray will now present the Spouse Certificate of Appreciation to Cindy Moss. On behalf of all Air Force airmen and their families, the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force presents this Certificate of Appreciation to Cindy Moss. I join your spouse, family, and friends in thanking you for the numerous contributions and sacrifices you made in support of our United States Air Force. Your dedication gave strength and purpose to your spouse's service and defense of our nation. Given this day, 31st of August 2024, signed the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force, David A. Flossie. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my distinct pleasure to present to you for the first time, Senior Master Sergeant Moss retired.
Makra and Chief Nolan and all the other chiefs and commanders for being here. I really appreciate you making the time and encouraging max participation for events like this because it matters. And I apologize, I have to stick to the script. I have to read this right. It's not gonna happen. It seems like we never have enough time for the right words, but I want to recognize the people who helped me to arrive at this moment in life. My parents, Richard and Corda Moss, raised me and my siblings as a team. My mom was a primary caretaker while also working full-time, and my dad worked so much, including a memorable stint running a small independent lawn care service he would have described as mowing lawns. They functioned as a team, and they did what they felt was necessary to provide for me and my sister and my brother. When I was born, the three of us lived in a mobile home across the street from my grandpa. Although that country road could be deceptively quiet, I can't think of a better place to grow up. You see, my grandpa was the center of our family. He had a modest farm where he grew a variety of corn, green beans, cucumbers, as well as raspberries, strawberries, and blueberries every year. He couldn't be here today because he died full of years doing what he'd done nearly all his life, taking care of the land. But I choose to believe that part of him, the ineffable part that separates the sleeping from the dead, is here with me today. But I didn't grow up across the street from Grandpa Moss. My parents wanted something better for their family. So eventually we moved into a house in my hometown, Coloma, Michigan. In short order, our family grew, and that 3-bedroom house became too small. Our next home, the one I would leave to begin my journey as an adult, was set in an idyllic forest near Lake Michigan, lush and secluded. I realize that you might not often hear this in these types of speeches, but I'd also like to recognize the teachers and staff of the Coloma Community School System. Beginning in 5th grade, and thanks to the active role that my mom played in my education and her advocacy for me, I joined an accelerated writing and reasoning environment, AWARE. I was incubated in the AWARE program for 4 years, and between the teachers and the students and the curriculum, there fomented a potent catalyst for academic and intellectual growth. Oftentimes, I was a reluctant student, but Mrs. Lang, Mrs. Hemingway, Mrs. Odekirk, and Mrs. Bailey encouraged and cudgeled, not cuddled, but cudgeled me into being a more analytical and methodical thinker. In 2000, my life changed radically. This chubby, smiling, drooling hunk of muscle chose me to be his father. And it's been the greatest privilege and challenge I've ever known. Nathan was born at home in Coloma at my in-laws' house where we were living. David and Annika arrived together in 2002, making our family complete. 20 years later, Nathan is actively pursuing an education in computer programming. Annika spends her days caring for infants and toddlers so that their moms and dads can do the work of the nation. And David has followed in my footsteps in the profession of arms, and yet is blazing his own trail in the Navy. I love you so much. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I feel like there was foreshadowing and premonitions of the military in my early life. The Nutcracker soldier was my stocking. I was a soldier in green fatigues for Halloween, but that was before I started my breakout career as Count Dracula. And for years, I was a drummer in the marching band. I'd strongly considered joining the military in high school, and again a couple of years later, but now, in 2002, I decided it was time. I joined as much out of civic duty as from needing a job and benefits to support my newly expanded family. Growing up, I can recall singing patriotic songs in school. This is my country, land of my birth. This is my country, grandest on earth. And I knew that one great uncle had been killed in the Korean War, and another had lost his leg in World War II. But no one in my generation had served, and I wanted to change that. I felt the need to represent my family and to give back to my country by serving in the military. So now, Annika and David and Nathan were transformed into military brats. We lived on base at my first duty station, Fairchild. Kind of touched on that. It was a busy time learning my job, working long hours, and often bringing work home. That was my idea of balancing family and work. My wife, Cindy, who'd spent the entire day taking care of 3 children under 3 years old, would make dinner for all of us. And my coworker and friend, Aaron Charles Capps. Cindy and Capps would handle the kitchen cleanup, and I gave the kids their nightly bath so I could spend some time with them. Once they were down for the night, Capps and I would continue to work, ensuring that bonuses and final pay and allowances were paid correctly and timely. Master Sergeant Sean Berganzoni, Greg Hansel, and Senior Master Sergeant Jennifer Gomez were all incredibly impactful leaders. I owe so much of the airman that I am today to those 3. With PCS in 2006 to Grand Forks, 1 year later, Annika and David had their first day of school, and I was in Afghanistan. The silver lining is I was redeployed in time to be home for Christmas. My family sacrificed again in 2009 when I was deployed again for 7 months. And as tough as all that was, we were completely unprepared for what came next. In May 2010, Nathan was diagnosed with a brain tumor. It was like staring down the barrel of a loaded gun. I have never been as scared in my life as I was then. Dr. Weejan, the neurosurgeon in charge of Nathan's care, came through and saved his life. But we were all changed forever. Doctor appointments and therapy became our whole world. Eventually, I acknowledged the need to move to gain better access to medical care. So in 2011, with PCS to Schriever in Colorado Springs, we moved the kids into online schooling to accommodate the relentless schedule. And together, we persevered. Between 2013 and 2014, I spent 12 months in Korea and tried to keep my mind busy as I watched my family grow up in pictures and online. This was one of the very hardest times for them. And the joy-filled homecoming was spiked with fear. During a routine test, Nathan reported soreness in his shoulder, and initially we were told that he had blood cancer. And while ultimately and thankfully he didn't, the scare was very real. With PCS to Wright-Patterson, Ohio in 2014, new house, new school system, new providers and dentists and therapists. The semi-routine grind of active duty military life, the only life my children have known. Just a few months into my assignment though, I guess something broke inside of me. This isn't working. Something needs to change. I wanted more stability for all of us. Chief Garcia, who I'm sure some of you know, had been whispering sweet nothings into my ear about the Air National Guard and how the AGR program is the best kept secret in the military. In 2016, I accepted a position of superintendent at the 104th Fighter Wing in Westfield, Massachusetts. Within a couple of months, we bought our first home and moved in. I was unprepared for how much having a home would mean to me. We finally had a house that our family could grow up in. And I had to learn how to maintain a pool. The secret is shock. A lot of shock. The chemicals that you put in there, if you guys don't know about shock. I thought I had everything worked out. I would learn the ways of the Guard, settle into being a homeowner, and work through the rest of my military career there in scenic Western Massachusetts. I love the mission. F-15s, I mean, come on, how much better does it get? But barnstormers are a family and culture unto themselves. I'm proud that I served with the nation's first. And I'd like to make a special mention to Master Sergeant Chris Benoit. He was a former fuels troop turned finance, my best friend in Massachusetts. To him, I'd like to say thank you for your wisdom, friendship, and camaraderie. But opportunity came knocking again, and I allowed Chief Garcia's siren song to persuade me. He was moving on to do great things with the medical group, which left a vacancy. In September 2019, Lieutenant Colonel Rule, thank you for being here, sir, hired me on as the superintendent. I was aware of the very high caliber folks who had applied for the job, and I was apprehensive of walking into a hostile environment. Instead, though, instead of that, what I found was nothing but warmth and a spirit of camaraderie and friendship here at Camp Murray. There was a bit of turnover in the first couple of years, but Master Sergeant Steve Clapper and Master Sergeant Shad Kerr have been my mainstays during my time here. I've learned so much from them and the other superstars like Captain Angela Spitzer and Captain Jennifer Warren. Lieutenant Colonel Jason Kramer assumed command in early 2022, and I didn't know him very well at the time, but we've had some time to get acquainted now. Colonel Kramer is the salt of the earth. In addition to being a person of unimpeachable character, a person of principle, and an inspiring commanding officer, he's a model supervisor. His leadership transformed our flight into an efficient, effective work center populated by empowered, resilient, and capable airmen. Thank you, sir. It's been my unique pleasure to train and work with Tech Sergeant Juan Cordova. Sergeant Cordova came to Camp Murray in 2020 after serving in the Marines, both on active duty and in the reserves. Everything he's learned about finance, he learned right here. I'm so proud of your growth, both as a technician and as a leader within the flight. Leadership is a privileged relationship. Your subordinates have to be willing to follow you. Juan, thank you for trusting me. I didn't realize it at the time, but hiring Tech Sergeant Ann Bataliones would be one of the best professional decisions I've helped make. Ann's been with us for about a year and a half. She's been the missing link in our front office. I think they've reached critical mass, that all the ingredients are there. We're there just waiting for someone like her to start the chain of reaction of excellence. Sergeant Bataliones has sensitivity, technical proficiency, and professionalism in abundance. You have a bright future ahead. Lastly, and most importantly, I need to dedicate some time to my wife and partner, Cindy. She is the thread that runs through everything. You were with me before I joined the Air Force, and I'm so proud that we made it through this experience together. Cindy has borne the unbearable. She makes our house a home, no matter how many times she's had to recreate that home. She selflessly dedicated her life to raising our children, and I don't have the words to express all my love for you. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for honoring me with your time, and honoring me and my family with your time and your presence. Thank you.